Advisory Council is always supportive of this law enforcement. Think about anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Branham, for your comments. They're well taken.
Question, Ms. Morris?
I think well, no, not really. I need to add, Mr. Shropshire, right in front of Trinidad Rec Center, it was like some shoes hanging in the alley. Are they still there?
Then I don't know.
Well,
I'll go by there and check tonight.
Okay.
Say right by the Trinidad Rec Center?
well, it's right in front, the alley right back in front of Trinidad Rec Center.
In between Trinidad Avenue and the, yes, off the children.
Any other questions for the officers?
Sergeant, can you spell your last name for the record, please?
Yes, it's spelled Z as in zebra, A, B as in boy, A, V as in Victor, S-K-Y.
Thank you.
Yep, starting to comic just in time.
All right, come on.
PSA 505.
All
Hi
right.
everyone, sorry I was dealing with an incident.
Right on time.
How are you?
Give you some good news for those of you who live in 505 PSA. We've had a 100% decrease in robberies in the last 30 days, which is outstanding. I think it's due to the efforts of the officers that are working at PSA. Overall crime is down. We have a 50% reduction in burglaries, a 64% reduction in violent crime total. And that's for the Saratoga Brentwood area, those of you familiar with it. The officers in the last 30 days have made a significant number of arrests, 109 total. Those are everything from quality of life arrests to gun arrest, traffic arrest to domestics. Other than that, doing a good job. And that's all I have for you.
That is good.
And your name?
Sergeant McCormick,
Can you spell it?
L-A-K-O-M-E-C.
Thank you, officer.
All right, thank you, John.
Great. I got a mission. I skipped something on the agenda, the adoption of the meeting minutes for April. So, Secretary, can you pass up the minutes?
I passed out the minutes, yes. I move to adopt the meeting minutes for the month of April.
And second.
Any discussion?
No discussion. Let's see, I want to note for the record that we're moving in the right direction with putting more relevant information in the minutes. And I just want one bullet item corrected. The motion was seconded for the PepsiCo rate increase. I move that we adopt a resolution opposing PepsiCo's rate increase, and we need to know who seconded that motion, so that the minutes are correct.
So, Commissioner Bugs, you have your recording. You can go back and check that.
Yeah, I do have the recording on, but you know, it is not necessary to record on the minutes 2 seconds. But yeah, I'll send it to you 2 seconds.
Make the change.
Mr. Simon, since you're here, would you speak to that?
Sure. According to Robert's rules, it is necessary for all motions to have a maker and to have a seconder, and it's required that the minutes show who made the motion, but not who seconded.
Okay, thank you.
So you will make those changes?
So it's not required to make that change.
So that means you're not making the,
I'll send that to you since you wanna know, but
no, I'm not interested in you sending it to me. I wanted it in the minutes, but I need to know if you're going to put it in the minutes or not.
it's not required, so no.
Okay, thank you.
Now, there's a motion, it's been seconded to adopt the meeting minutes for April. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Motion passed 4-0-1. Right. Is anyone here? Someone here from Mr. McDuffie's office? Okay. So, thank you, Commissioner Henderson, for inviting Deputy Mayor Kevin Donahue. So now we'll hear from him.
You're welcome, and thank you.
What you did.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Donahue, and I am the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, and I'll explain more about what that actually means. So right now, the city is in the middle of the budget development process. When the mayor proposes a budget, the city council debates it, makes changes and adopts it. And during the process when decisions are made, I try to come out to any ANCs who will have me, thank you, and try to encourage people to become aware of the budget for their city, and encourage you to get involved whether you agree or disagree with what the mayor is doing or what the city council is doing. So I wanted to spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about the city's budget, tell you how you can learn more, and then how you can get involved if it's something that you want to find out or something you want to advocate around. So to get a sense of how the city does its budget, the process usually starts around October and November each year. Our fiscal year starts October 1st. And so the CFO for the city starts to, in around November, starts to create budgets for every city agency where they ask the question, how much will it cost next year to carry out the same service level we have this year? And it's called a baseline budget. And then everything is done based on either adding or subtracting for what the CFO says it will take to continue on what we're doing this year. So that factors in inflation, it takes into account any pay increases, it looks at obligations the city has under the law that we have to set money aside for. Then in about January, the mayor starts to engage her city agency directors and the city administrator and tries to identify if we have more money coming in, where to make adjustments for that, to increase, if the CFO says we have to make cuts, where to make decreases. And the city has each year about 3 public budget engagement forums where we try to take input from residents about what they want to do, how they want the mayor to spend money in the proposed budget. Then in typically late March, the mayor proposes a budget to the city council. Now the city council gets it, it's out of the mayor's hands, and the city council can make any changes they want to the budget, all the way through until when they vote on it in early June. And so right now we're in the process where the city council is looking at what the mayor submitted. They're holding hearings, which will continue for about another week or so, and they'll start to mark the budget up, and all the way until there's a formal process where you can engage during those city council hearings, but all the way until the city council votes on the budget, there are opportunities to make adjustments to it. So I wanted to just raise a few things about what's included right now in the budget that may change as the city council makes debates for next year, and I'll limit it to public safety. This is the area that I know best. So in the city's public safety cluster, there's about 8 agencies. So there's the police, fire, EMS, there's the 911 and 311 office, or Office of Unified Communications. There's the Department of Corrections that runs the DC jail. There's our Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency. We have a crime lab that's called the Department of Forensic Sciences, a medical examiner's office, and an office that gives grants out for around violence prevention and victim assistance called the Office of Victim Services and Justice Grants. It's about 8 agencies whose budgets total about $1 billion when you combine all of them. Now, in a lot of cities or states, they would have other agencies too that we don't have in DC. So in DC, the prosecutors work for the federal government. Anyone sentenced to prison goes to federal Bureau of Prisons. Our supervision and parole agencies are federal as well. So in DC, out of the bankruptcy 20 years ago of the city, part of what got us out of bankruptcy was shifting a portion of our criminal justice responsibilities over to the federal government. So in the city, it totals about $1 billion. Now, to give you a sense of where that sits in the grand scheme of things, the city's annual budget for next year is going to be $13.8 billion. And that's based on what the CFO thinks we're going to collect in tax revenue. Now, in that, about 10 cents on the dollar goes to public safety. So about a dime out of every dollar we spend goes to public safety. And most of that's going to be police salaries and fire EMS salaries. That accounts for more than half of the of that $1 billion. The rest goes, well, most of it will go to Health and Human Services. So about 34 cents for every dollar we spend goes to Health, Human Services. That includes what we get from the federal government for Medicaid and reimbursements. About 20 cents from the dollar goes to education. And then about 20 cents goes to capital projects, so construction, paying for Metro, and other obligations that we have that we pay for by issuing debt. So at the end of the day, the cluster for public safety is about $1 billion, or about 10% of that. And there's a few themes in the 18 budget that the council's debating now that I think cut across a few agencies. One is trying to have appropriate staffing at city agencies. A second is trying to fund programs that get agencies that don't often work together to collaborate on a common project, and I'll mention a couple of examples of that. And third, trying to focus on violence prevention. I want to give a couple of examples around each of those. So around staffing, last year there was a big push to make sure we had enough 911 call takers. So the city hired about 34 911 call takers. It turns out we had not hired call takers in 8 years, and our call volume kept going up and up each year. We also realized that we had for 15 years the same number of ambulances out on the street every day, despite having more than 100,000 new residents and a lot more calls. So we spent money trying to expand our ambulances and expand some of the call takers. For this budget, there's a lot of it focuses on trying to improve police recruitment, police retention, and incentives to live in DC for police. So a few things in the budget. There's about $5 million of new money. So part of that enhancement that we're getting in new revenue is going to go towards civilianizing some functions. So when cops are doing things that civilians can do, try to have civilians do those so police can go back to the street. The biggest part of that is folks who go to crime scenes to do crime scene investigations. So if you watch the TV show CSI, and we want to have civilian scientists trained in forensic sciences to do that. So that's a big part of that $5 million. There's about $4 million that we're spending in new money to expand what we call recruitment incentives. The largest portion of that is we have a program here called the Cadet Program that takes DC young adults, and in DC you have to have at least 2 years of college credits to become an officer. So we will pay them a salary to go get their college credits, and then guarantee a slot for them when they complete that in the police department. And we're going to double that program in size from 35 each year to 70 each year. And we're going to give a housing allowance that encourages people to live in DC when they first join the police department. And then retention, but DC has had a police retirement bubble because we hired a lot of officers about 25 years ago. It started about 2 years ago, and it lasts for about 2 more years. And when our chief talks to officers, some of the, particularly the newer officers and the older officers have student loans. The newer ones, it's their own. The older ones, it's often for their kids. And so they're supposed to put aside money to help with loan forgiveness programs as an encouragement for folks to come join the police department. And then finally, we're setting aside money to help firefighters, police officers, and teachers, which are professions where we employ a lot of people, but actually we need more of them to live in DC. So it's a program that the city's had for many years that helps pay for someone, helps match a down payment someone will put in a new house. And so we're going to expand that program for firefighters, police, and teachers as a way of encouraging them to live in DC. So that's around sort of staffing, and again, it's very much focused this year on MPD. I'll talk just more briefly